thanks that we have freedom and energy and a time to gather together today. Thank you for this way of doing ministry, of gathering through technology, through Zoom. Thank you for our regions and our churches as we have gathered together. Let us do the work of ministry smarter because we are doing it together. Open our ears and eyes so that we may hear a new word about what ministry can be in the form of storytelling. Help us to remember that you are in all places at all times. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So we had talked about, first of all, the Children Worship and Wonder Ministry and DHM. And I am a representation of Disciples Home Missions. So I do want to spend just a few minutes here as we've gathered together to share with you some resources that we have put together for you and has been on our website. And I'm not for sure if many of any of you are familiar with our website, but it's Olivia Updegrove, myself, and Kate Epperly, and Randy Cuss make a team, Ministry Cross Generations, and then we work from this website specifically for families and children, and to help put together resources for you. So as we go through some interesting and sometimes hard times, I wanted to be able to share this with you. So let me share my screen. Now, just to make sure that I'm sharing and what you're seeing is what I'm seeing. Does it say docfamiliesandchildren.org on what you're seeing in your screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So this is our front page, and I just want to give you a quick look at this website because I think if you work with children and families, this could be very helpful as leaders. So we have a church tab, and one of the things that I want to bring attention to this is, of course, Children Worship and Wonder on here, but there's worship resources. There's Baptist communion and dedication resources in here. And one other thing that a lot of churches have to deal with time to time, as I said in safe place policies, is safety issues. And we just have a great resource of a bunch of things that are available to you. If you look under leaders, those that are in the ministry of leading our youth, we have curriculum programs, and I'm going to just click on that. So a lot of people always ask us about curriculum to use. And what we have done is we've just curated a list of things that we have looked at and know that match a lot of what our theology does. And we just have put them in a nice, simple little place for you to look at. Also, the other thing that I find is really helpful is books for children. We have gone through and just trying to find a bunch of different books that are helpful to read. And then this one I have used several times is Tough Situations. We have a lot of things that our families will struggle with. And here we have racism, gun safety, bullying, death, illness, sexuality, divorce, death. And so if you look on this, that you can find resources of books that you can read to your children or books that are for the parents. So those are always good resources to have, that if you have any special situation that comes up in your church, that you can come over here and look at that. And then back at our homepage, we have the newest things that we have been paying attention to, or that are seasonal, that come up. And right now because of the pandemic, Olivia and I have been working really hard on trying to find things that families can do at home together. And that Advent at Home is come up. We've worked on along with Reconciliation Ministries, on a Black Lives Matter. And this is a specific list of things to do with your families, to talk about Black lives. And then always just coming up is Children's Sabbath, and we have had this has been a long tradition with UCC of doing sort of a devotion of 21 days before Children's Sabbath. So we do a meditation and pray for children, and and then we have this Christmas mission project for those that are wanting to look for a Christmas mission project. Here is some Christmas cards that will be sent to the border, so for refugees. So those are some of our current things that we're doing right now and getting for you to be involved with. If those are interest to you, you can always email our ministry associate, Wilma, or call us down here at this number, or contact us. This will go straight to Wilma. We also updated a bunch of safety guides in regards to working with children on Zoom. And we've also added some things, if you go down here to the updates and resources on racism. And then we have, right here, going back into the building with children. Here's the COVID ideas, games for social distancing, and then she also has in here some safety protocols about being with children on Zoom. Again, we're just, we want to keep you safe and the children safe. And so some of those safety guides are, if you're on Zoom, you record, you have more than one adult on Zoom with your children, those kind of just things that you would normally even have if you were together in a space. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. The last thing I want to show you is we have a YouTube channel. And if we click on the YouTube channel, my storytellers have been really hard at work for the last 9 months working on recording stories. And so if you need one of the Children Worship and Wonder stories, you can go in here and search it. And we have building a list. I'm trying to keep a little bit ahead of the schedule that we usually keep for Children Worship and Wonder. And this week will be the 10 best ways to live. So that is being showcased this week, but prior stories are on there, including the things that we did this summer, which was the parables. And then prior to that, we had the Lent stories, and those were all recorded and put on here if you need to have a resource of getting a Children Worship and Wonder story. They're good for using as children's moments. They're also good for if you have a storyteller and they need to know, just are not as comfortable with a story as they thought they might be after working with it in the book, then they can go to here and view it. So I did want to show you that. And then of course we have recordings of our gatherings. We do once a month gatherings with leaders around the church. We did the generative church. We've had some really great workshops. Those are on the first Monday of every month at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. And so we have a speaker. It's not necessarily a disciple speaker, but we have had the Logos person come on and talk to us. And then this month, we had the generative church. So we've had some really good speakers come and talk, and you can come and listen to those recordings if you like from our YouTube channel. All right, I'm going to stop sharing now. Does anybody have any questions regarding the website?
No, that's good stuff, though. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing.
there's lots of pages, so don't get overwhelmed. But I just did want you to know that the disciples are working for you, so you don't have to go out on online and try to find the stuff yourself. We have lots of good things right there on that website. So,
Mm-hmm.
and if you go to DHM and just type in Children and Ministries, it'll take you to that. It'll take a straight link to that.
Great. Great.
Okay. All right. So, what my favorite thing to do is tell story, and I'm going to tell the story of the parable of the Good Shepherd. Um, so, what is Children Worship and Wonder? Children Worship and Wonder. Oh, I should have looked at the Children Worship and Wonder page while I was on the website. But Children Worship and Wonder is a special place. It's a exciting way of approaching faith formation with young children. It recognizes that children already have a relationship with God. We respect children, and that we are just bringing them into an experience with God through storytelling. It's Montessori based, so we have used a lot of the ideas of Sophia Cavaletti, Marie Montessori, and she uh, likes to have her room set up so that the children have ownership of their room and they can explore with the levels that they need to be. So everything is set up at the children's level. So we bring them into an experience with God. They will hear Bible stories that allow them to enter into the story and form responses out of that experience. They learn the meaning of some church traditions and have opportunities to participate in worship practices. So another part of Maria Montessori practices was that they need to participate by doing little, we call, like greeters and acolytes and things that we have in our community worship. We'd have those same roles for children in the Children Worship and Wonder Center. It's designed for time. The Children Worship and Wonder was designed for during a breakout time from community worship. So a lot of churches in some areas, especially some of the disciples churches, took this on early, and about the 80s, late 80s, 90s is where they would have a children's message and they would dismiss the children. And so this program was designed for that dismissal. So that basically 35, 40 minutes to have children be in a special worship service, not just another Sunday school or just basically babysitting time for children. And so this was designed for that. It can be, but we have also seen it be used for Sunday school curricula or Wednesday night, like instead of a Logos program, use it for Wednesday night, or we've seen it used in vacation Bible schools. We've seen it used all different kinds of ways. And it can be used as young as children at 3 years old. Children of various ages can be grouped together in one worship center. So this is a multi-age. Usually, typically, what has worked well for me is children anywhere from ages 3 to about third grade. And so, and then after they kind of get done with third grade, we can have the children be a part of junior, like have a position within helping us in the Children's Worship Center by being like a junior greeter. But our theology, one that I strongly believe in is I want to have them have these experiences of God in these children's centers, but I also want them to have strong relationships in the community. And so we want to do a nice melding of both. We want the Children Worship and Wonder time, or worship time, to be parallel, matching what the community does, so that when they are old enough that they can meld nicely into the community. And they will also hopefully be welcomed by having several special positions, like maybe they will take on a acolyte job, or a scripture reader, or singing in the choir, or something like that, so that they can move into those various stages of worship so they can be welcomed. Worship centers can have Yeah, the nice thing about this is worship centers, you can work with 3 or you can work with up to 15 with one storyteller. Now, when I say up to 15, I have a church in Lee Summit Christian Church. They have more than 15. And so what they do is they bring everybody together for the story, and then they break out those kiddos based on that, their ages, into their work and wonder time together and their feast time. And so you just need more greeters for that. So um, say it, and we can work with all kinds of children, all kinds of abilities, special abilities um, in this. Whatever I call it, this wonderful spirit of the program is able to capture and engage the children at wherever they are. So we usually have very few discipline and difficulties having them feel uh, engaged in that worship time. So that's just a little bit of an overview. We like to, and what I and my trainers do is we come and train people to do storytelling. We believe if many of you might even heard of godly play. I think Kristen told me that she was godly play trained. Godly play is really the same. Jerome Berryman and Sonia Stewart wrote the Young Children in Worship book. And then at some point, Jerome and Sonia sort of had a little bit of a parting. Well, they had a parting, and Jerome Berryman started doing godly play, but he did it more through the religious education component, which he started using a lot of this idea of bringing children into this experience of God through Sunday school, through the education um, lens. And Sonia Stewart wanted to keep it more in that worship realm. So that's really the main difference between them. And Godly Play has guidebooks. They have like up to 10 guidebooks. And they also now just came up with a Stories of God at Home. So I am a Godly Play storyteller, but not a trainer. And they are, so you can, and you go to godlyplay.com to follow anything about them. Regarding Children Worship and Wonder, you would come through our denomination and go through that website to find Children Worship and Wonder. The nice thing about the book, this is one of the books I would show. This is my other book, and I'm sorry I don't have I just realized now that I don't have like a new copy of this, and mine's falling apart. But this is the book that is the Young Children in Worship book for Sonia. This was her and Jerome's book that they put together, and then Sonia went on to write this book, Following Jesus. So when you look at the book, it's nice because it's all inclusive. It has you have a story in it, and then it also goes in and it has a diagram, and then it also has the materials that you need for each story. So it's all, and then it has the patterns at the back of the book, which is unlike Godly Play. Godly Play just has the stories, and you have to buy all the materials through their website. Whereas the Young Children in Worship and Following Jesus, if you have someone in your congregation, or we do have a resource, a place that you can purchase the items from, but you could put this together. You can build your own library if you have those handy craftsmen that are available in your church.
And where can you get those resources, Lisa?
I will show you. Let me go to share my screen again. Let's see. Before I do that, let me go over here and pull this up. Okay. Take a breath here. All right. I'm going to find you guys again. Okay. There we go. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. This is the website. So this is the newer book right here, The Young Children in Worship.
Okay.
and then following Jesus. And then we have some more stories over here by Dick Gibson. He is a Methodist pastor.
Mm-hmm.
So the story that I will tell you now, will tell you, is going to be the parable of the Good Shepherd.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to click on that, and then you can see what this is, and you can see how you can purchase it if you wanted to purchase it through Worship Woodworks.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can use the book to make your own parables.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Gotcha.
So the book will provide you the pattern and the resource list that you need for everything in here. But this is a place that you can come and purchase the book. I'm going to tell using my mini version of the parable. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. And if you would give me a minute, I'm going to turn off my screen, and then I'm going to move myself over into my storytelling area, and I'm going to tell you the story of the parable of the Good Shepherd. So give me a couple minutes to get resituated.
So while she does that, I'm going to point you to the chat where Dave Brett, who led our last session, said that his wife had been using these materials with the children, the church children, and really likes them. And so he went so far as to buy a table jigsaw to make the characters out of poplar boards from Lowe's. And she now has a library of stories that the kids have really enjoyed. And I will tell you that years ago when we were doing Godly Play, we were doing it with no budget. And so we used some of those little wooden people from Hobby Lobby and just painted little Bible time coats on them. And we made this one John, and this one was Jesus, and this one was the Good Shepherd. And you know, we did it for almost nothing because we just did not have a budget to go with it. But I always kind of envied the nicer ones and wished that we had the money to do that. I don't think my husband would have let me get a jigsaw as much as I would have wanted one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, can you guys see me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now I got to make sure this is going to work. So sometimes I have to, you can see my box right here. Yes, okay. So as I get ready to tell you the story, I'm going to move the screen down and I won't be able to see you. So Kristen is going to help me by let me know if there's any questions or anything that you guys will experience during the story. But it's to help you get into the story and engage in the story as we all come together around the parable of the Good Shepherd. Now, the parable of the Good Shepherd is so important. If we read Sophia Cataletti is the one that studied with Marie Montessori in developing the Good Shepherd of Catechesis. So the Good Shepherd of Catechesis this is a long-standing program that has been working in the Catholic Church and then has moved into the Protestant Church. And Sophia Cataletti just worked with Marie Montessori and used her principles to develop this program for the Catholic Church. And you will find this program basically called the Good Shepherd of the Catechesis through the Catholic Church. So, so it's been a long-standing tradition in many churches to be able to tell this story. So we use the story of the Good Shepherd because children can identify with that. They can identify the story, the Good Shepherd as the parent, as a caregiver, as one who takes care of. So we have about 5 stories that will be around the parable of the Good Shepherd. Around the Good Shepherd. So we use 2 or 3 from the parable, and then we have 2 or 3 in wooden figures that we have available too. So, and we'll look at the difference between that here in a second after I tell the story. So, all right, one way I always have the children help me get ready to be with God as we get ready to hear a story. And at the end of the day, I'm sorry my voice is a little rough. But we like to sing the song "Be Still," and that song helps us get centered and focused and grounded to get ready to hear the story. So I am going to help myself get ready by singing "Be Still," and then I will share the story with you. I hope you enjoy it. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that this is a parable. Parables are precious like gold. This box is gold. This box also looks a lot like a gift. And parables are like gifts. They're given to us. No one can take them away or steal them. They're already ours. Another reason this might be a parable is it has a lid. And sometimes parables seem to have lids on them. I know. Let's lift the lid and see what's inside. I wonder what this could be. So green and round. I wonder what could be so green and round. I wonder what this could be. Blue. I wonder if it could be a cloud or a mirror. I also have these. They're so dark. I wonder what could be so dark. And then I have this. If I put this here, I wonder if it has a beginning and an ending, or if this could be the beginning and this the ending. I have more. Let's see what these will make. I'm going to build something. And build it stronger. With adding these pieces. I wonder what it could be. Could it be a log cabin? Or a fence? Or we have more. We have sheep. Sheep live in this place. Now this place has an inside and an outside, but I need a way for us to get from the inside to the outside, so I'm going to make a gate. Now, let's come close to this parable. Once there was a man who said such amazing things and did wonderful things that people began to follow him, but they did not know who he was. So one day they asked, and he said, I am the good shepherd. And I know each of my sheep by name, and to them they will follow. And I will show them the way. To the good green grass, and I will show them to the cool, clean water. And when there are places of danger, I will show them safely through. Back to the safety of the sheepfold. Now, part of our time together around this story is to wonder. Let's wonder, ask a question. And if you feel free, you can respond in the chat or aloud if you'd like. I wonder if these sheep have names. I wonder how many sheep can live in this place. I wonder what the Good Shepherd's voice sounds like. I wonder how long to cool, clean water. I wonder if you have been through places of danger. I wonder where this whole place could really be. I wonder where you are in this story. Amen. All right. If you give me a minute, I'm going to situate myself back so I don't have to keep me on the rest of the time. So give me a second and we'll debrief this story together. All right. So let me hear some thoughts about some of what you experienced through that story. Kristen, do you have to unmute everybody or do I have to?
So they have to unmute themselves. I can
Okay.
request that they unmute themselves, but usually they've just been unmuting and popping out and then they mute themselves back.
Okay.
Well, there were lots of questions.
Okay.
And I was wondering at what point, the kids would chime in. And if you restricted their input at all, or, probably not, I'm guessing, but, um, so different to see the lesson without children, you know.
Yes. Yes. Well, those are good questions. So the time, again, this is a time that you're building your relationship with the children, and so over time they will be very comfortable with you. And when I usually tell this with adults, in the very beginning, everybody's really shy. They're just more of a participant. They're not really they're more of an observer, not a participant. But children really are participants, and so they usually I can't get more than three to four wondering questions in, because that's taken all the time that we need because of their responses. And a lot of times I'll start with a very concrete question. So those 2 or 3 in the beginning about, I wonder how many sheep can live in this place. I wonder if these sheep have names. Those are really targeted to your younger audience, the 3, 4, and 5s, who are really concrete thinkers. And then as you move through your story, through the wondering component, I try to get to a little bit more abstract to get to that older child, so that they can, hear the story. And hopefully, if they've been in the program, they will hear the story about 3 times by the time they exit and go into the community. Mm-hmm. And so they will have, as they come to the story each time, they will have something deeper that they can contribute to that story. And so that is, and I sort of do, in the wondering questions, I sort of do a small retell, like we recap the story a little bit about that in that story. So the first question was, what are the sheep's name? And I think the last question is, I wonder where this place could be, or I wonder where you are in the story. Those are a little bit harder, those are harder for us to understand and put our thoughts around if we were a younger child. So, but yeah, the children engage in it really quickly. And I think part of why it works so well is that we help our trainers or storytellers with teaching them on how to do orientation. And so creating boundaries of the children worshipman's wonder space before they actually start participating fully. And the reason for that is we help them create the boundaries that we're going to have in the room. So one of the boundaries would be how we walk in that children worship and wonder space, how we talk, how we sit and listen to the story, how we work with our responses to the story. Mm-hmm. And so after the story and after the responses, then I would invite them into personal reflective time. And usually we give them art materials to work with. And this is a time that we're that they are developing to listen to their small, still voice inside them by drawing a response to the story or by putting a puzzle that might match the story, or they can work with the story themselves. We give them several options of things that they can work with to help them enrich that story experience. So that will be the response time that we do with them. So, and that's a time that's independent. It's not a group time. The group worship is around the story and the critical thinking around the wondering questions. And then the individual response time is in that kind of creative work time. So.
Are all of the wonder questions pre-written, or are they ad-libbed at all?
Yeah, so that's a good question too. So when we encourage people to make the wondering questions authentic. So there is in the book suggested wondering questions, but I went into this one center, it was Presbyterian Church, and they were literally doing every story word by word. Like they weren't giving any room for the Spirit at all. And I was like, okay, so I'm really glad you're a stickler to the process, but we got to allow the Spirit to work in this place. And so the Spirit, as you tell the story, might be bubbling up a certain question or wonder question that you have. Well, I think that's very authentic for you to use that as a wondering question. So Godly Play, he only has about 3 or 4 questions that he resorts to. And one is, and Kristen, if you can maybe remember these, but it's, I wonder what the most important part of the story is. I wonder where you are in the story. And I wonder if the story has all it needs. Can we add anything or take anything away and it be the same story? Pretty much that is his wondering questions. But with the other 2 books, there is suggested wondering questions that you can use. But again, it has to be authentic. It has to allow for the Spirit to work in that space. And I have a mentor, the Dick Gibson, which I showed with you on the website earlier. I was sharing that with him, he even, as you've been through all the stories, he will even start, like he would say, if he's bringing out the Good Shepherd at the end of the year, in another time that we tell it, he would say, I wonder what other stories in this room remind you of this story. And the kids are welcome to go and pull items from the other stories to see, to match, and to go into that story. What I love about this is it makes, we've been talking about in education how children have lost their wonder and lost their ability to think for themselves. But this, we're allowing this back in the church, and I think it's so important around religion to make kids critical thinkers. And so by adding these wondering questions, I think it's very, very important it's a gift. It's a gift for the children. So,
and what's the age group again?
This will, I think it's ideally for 3-year-old to about 3rd grade.
Oh, okay. Okay.
If you would do Godly Play, you could do Godly Play all the way up through middle school. I mean, through to middle school.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I can, if you want, I'm going to show you some centers because I did it at home. So I want to show you some centers real quick. So I have another share screen if we have time for that.
I have a question, if I may.
Yeah.
Kids in.
Oh, Angie, I think you're muted.
That was my fault. I'm sorry, Angie. I accidentally muted you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, now I can.
So on your website, and do you have similar resources, say, for the kids in middle school? Because ours are, Gina, help me out here, from about 10, 13, 14, that age range. So they're too old for this kind of particular program. So where would we find the resources for middle school, beginning high school?
Yeah, so if um, Randy Cuss is the person, middle school, high school. I do have some resources on the Disciples webpage, but I will. And Randy Cuss is the person that usually works with middle school and high school, and he is a very big proponent of Children Worship and Wonder. So he has used it a lot in camps when they do camps and things. So he will pull out stories just to use the story component to help him share a point. So uh, I will send that connection to you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And you are Angie.
First Christian Hammond.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So now I'm going to go back to the screen if we can do that. Oops, sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. Let me get down here to this. Okay, I'm going to span this. And these are some Children Worship and Wonder centers. Now, I know this seems kind of weird to talk about this during our pandemic, but I did want to give you some, I just want to show you a little bit about what our rooms and centers look like across the United States here. These are from some of my trainers. This is sort of a plan, an ideal plan. We have a center set up at Phillips, and this is how it's set up according to this plan. And so here are just some different rooms. So just some different things. We want our centers to look nice and comfortable and kid friendly. This is one of our California trainers rooms. Have a prayer corner, and they have some of the figures over here on the side from some of the story. This is our focal shelf. So we always encourage our storytellers to sit right here in front of this focal shelf to tell the stories. And we have it basically across from the room when you come in. And she's pointing over here where the Advent and Christmas stories live. We always say that the stories live on these shelves. This is another Good Shepherd program right here. And this is the Nativity, and this is the Christ candle. And how the church tells time, and the Lord's Supper right there. Okay. Here's another one, another focus shelf where the children worked on a liturgical cloth to put across the focus shelf. Again, the three stories of Jesus as shepherd, as newborn, and as Christ. Another focus shelf. And this one is another one. And this story at the top, the cross that makes on the blue wall there, is made up of the faces of Jesus, which is a Lenten story that is told from Godly Play. And just more focus shelves. And then here's parable shelves. This is what your parables would look like. This is from our center in Phillips. And these are stories, sacred stories on top. I'm sorry, this is out of focus, but this is some more sacred stories with creation, Noah's Ark, and some of the Exodus stories. And this is where you can keep your art supplies and materials for response for the children. Here's another shelving unit that would keep some of our response materials to help them independently learn. And another. And here's some children in a worship center with a liturgical calendar on the back. Okay, that is some of the rooms that we have. Does anybody have any questions about what a center looks like?
That's good.
I might speak briefly in our last couple minutes about how we've been using this in a pandemic. Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Okay. So as soon as we realized that we were going to be in this in the long term, we started thinking long term. And so again, our storytellers started putting the stories together and have them available for you on YouTube. What I have found is, as I have been working with a local church here, is that they use that story on Sunday morning as a worship message. So it's like a children's message incorporated into the worship time that they share on Sunday morning. But then I have found on Wednesday night is then I take that story that was shared and I work with the children for about 40 minutes online through Zoom, and we go deeper with the story. So we will do mostly what you would do in a worship time together in a center, but we do it through Zoom. And I just connect with my families, and we start by, getting together, and we share a couple songs. We kind of get, catch up at the beginning. We share a couple songs with prayer, and then we move into the story. And we move into the wondering questions, we move into response, and then we come out of that with some more reflection and debriefing, and then we do a blessing and sort of ascending that we do with the kids. It has been worked really super well. I've done it at 5:30 at night. This way the parents can sit and start getting their supper or whatever. The kids are sitting at the kitchen table in case they need some help. They're right there. And so it's been working super. In fact, I've had much better participation than I had on Sunday mornings. So it's been really a blessing. So that's how we've used it, moved it to use during the pandemics. And I've done a little both. What I did here was tell you the story in person, or I've done a recorded story that from the YouTube, depending on how much time I have to get ready that week, whether I've been able to internalize the story well enough to tell it to the kids. If I haven't, then I will do a recorded story. But that's how we've been using in the pandemic. It seems to be working really well. And I would encourage those that work with children to use the people that are continuing to work with children, because they want to hear they want to be with you. They don't want just stuff being shown to you off the internet. So we have found that to be the most responsive way. And there is a few churches that have started opening the doors, and what we're encouraging as they open the doors is to be cautious of still taking the children by themselves into a small room, because that is a little bit risky, because you're putting a lot of bubbles together. And so we are encouraging, if you can, set up a table at the back of your sanctuary for kids to get a tray with some worship materials, and that the storyteller will tell the story in worship, and then invite the children to do their work during the sermon. And so that has been working really well too, so then that family can stay together in their little pod in the seats, and there's that way they don't have to do that way they can do it all safely and not have to intermix. Well, if anybody has any more questions, we have a few more minutes before we have to be done. So you guys can be done for the day.
Yeah, this has been good. Very informative.
I have a
Very.
question.
Mm-hmm.
As Angie pointed out, we don't have anyone in this age range, but I'm wondering if this could be a type of outreach that a church could do online. If you know of anyone that's done something like that. Um,
You, I've been contemplating that, Gina. I have found that when the first pandemic hit, we were offering on Sunday after at 12:30, the Office of Disciples Missions was offering a 12:30 time for families and children to worship together. And I was basically doing that. I was basically doing Children Worship and Wonder on Zoom. And what I found was that really targeted a lot of pastors with young children. So I think what I found maybe there might be a need for is pastors spending time with their own children in faith formation. And that might be a niche that seems to be missing, because it just seems like, on a Sunday morning, think about it, they just don't have time. They're so busy working with getting, the members of the church, that they don't have a lot of time to spend. And I've heard a lot of them say, hey, it's been really nice during this pandemic that I actually get to worship with my child. So,
Wonderful.
yes, I think Angie had another question.
Yeah, well, no, actually something that kind of struck me when you talked about worship centers is right now we're doing one Children's Youth Sunday a month. In fact, it'll be tomorrow, because some of the kids can't travel. So we have it at one of our church members who has a nice place out in the country. But what you said about worship centers, my thought is that that would lend itself, these are basically all junior high kids, about that age, to have maybe even a weekly, like a worship opportunity, and keep it simple, like, light the candle, have a prayer, have a check-in time. How are you guys doing? What's the challenge of the week and everything? Then have a brief story or Bible text, and one that, so it would be interactive. They could see each other's friends. They could check in with each other. There would be a short lesson and, a couple of songs that they like, and then basically a blessing. But that would be a way for kids who cannot see each other to be in touch with each other, be able to check in, share what's been happening, share prayer concerns. And I'm thinking about a very loose format, but I think that's something that might appeal to middle schoolers who are many of whom are stuck at home. And, many churches are not open or don't have a children's or youth program. So but when you talked about worship centers, that really what got me kind of thinking. So thank you. That was very, very helpful.
Good. And these stories we all know, right? So it's just a matter of making them come alive for the children or the youth that you work with.
Well, and the beautiful thing about doing worship centers would be that if when we have worship tomorrow, the kids, half the kids who are attending are unchurched. Their parents never take them to church. So, but they come out to this friend's place. So if the kids liked it, then they could tell their friends about it, and it might grow. Yeah, and invite more youngsters saying, hey, we have this really cool get together on Sunday afternoons or something, and get to share, and this is for us. So it could reach out beyond what Jared was talking about, Jared Banks, beyond the confines of the church, and actually reach kids who are unchurched.
I really feel like that the pandemic has hopefully showed the church that this is something we can think outside the walls, right? And so that being together in a different way has helped us reform or reimagine how we can minister together. So, well, I know it's 5:01 and you guys have been here. Most of you probably been here all day. So I want to respect your time. And if you have any questions, I'm going to type because I know this is being recorded so people can come back here and look at this. I'm typing in my how to get a hold of me. So that's my email. So if you guys need to reach out to me, that is a way to look at that. And I'm going to be at DOC Families and Children.org is our website. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This has been very enlightening. Thank you for taking your time to show us what children Worship and Wonder is all about. And so I appreciate you. This has been good. Thank y'all for hanging in with us this last round. I pray that this has been something for all of us the whole day, really. And so whatever your takeaway is, I pray that you would take it and apply it in your own areas of ministry, because there has certainly been something for everyone. Thank you, Lisa. I'll be in touch with you in a little bit. I pray that y'all would have a wonderful rest of the weekend as you settle in for Sunday worship tomorrow, wherever you worship. I pray that the Spirit of God would be present with you to transform lives. And so we will see you on November the 6th for our pre-assembly seminar from 9 to noon. Man, we have a lineup for y'all. We have a lineup around clergy care, clergy responsibilities in ministry, clergy and boundaries. And so we certainly want to see you out. And then definitely on November the 7th, beginning at 9 a.m. for our regional assembly worship and business session. And so you can get more information on our website, www.grrdisciples.org. Click on the link that says Regional Assembly 2020. Thank you so much, and we will see you somewhere around the Great River region. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.